Thanks for tuning in to this episode of With Just 15 Defeats. I'm Teekosey, and today we're reviewing, evaluating and predicting the outcome of the Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. If you are new to the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and if you're already a subscriber, thank you for your continued support. If you have any questions or issues with this fight or my assessment, I would be really pleased to hear from you in the comment section below. I hope that you enjoy this preview. Canelo Chavez Jr. is taking place on the 6th of May 2017 in Las Vegas at an unusual catch weight of 164.5 pounds, and of course is a non-title fight. So Canelo has a record of 48 victories, 1 defeat, 1 draw, with 34 of his 48 wins coming by way of stoppage, and incredibly, he's been a pro since 2005, which is mind-blowing when you think the guy is 26 years old. He's 5'7" and he's campaigned between light welterweight and light middleweight, despite capturing a middleweight title. He won the WBC super welterweight title and he defended it 6 times, including some very good wins over Shane Mosley and Austin Trout. He then came up against the legend that is Floyd Mayweather Jr. and he was defeated fairly comprehensively over 12 rounds. He then went on to capture the WBC middleweight title. However, he only weighed in at 155 pounds, as did his opponent Miguel Cotto. Bizarrely enough, after that, he then went on to defend this middleweight crown again at the light middleweight limit. This time, he was fighting Britain's Amir, and he stopped him in vicious fashion. After that, he moved back down to the light middle super welterweight division, where he competed for the WBO World Super Welterweight title against Britain's Liam Smith, where he was successful. This was a grueling affair over 9 rounds, which ended by way of stoppage, with Canelo landing a vicious body shot. Now, what do we know about Canelo Alvarez? We know that he is phenomenally experienced, despite the fact that he is only 26 years old. In the ring, he's shown fantastic timing and placement of his shots. He has phenomenal power, as well as having the ability to close the show when necessary. Building on from the fact that he has phenomenal timing, he's also fairly patient, looking for shots, putting shots together to land the big shots. And when he needs to, he has fantastic combinations where he mixes up the shots to the head and the body with the light and the heavy shots. And these can lead to debilitating results on the opponent. Now, his opponent in this fight is going to be Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And he has a record of 50 victories, 2 defeats, 1 draw, with 32 of his 50 victories coming by way of stoppage. Chavez is 5 years older and has been a pro since 2003. He's a much bigger man, and he stands at 6'1" tall. Despite his frame and size, he has fought as low as 130 pounds earlier on in his career. However, more recently, he's been fighting at the super middleweight 168 limit, but in many of these fights he has failed to make the 168 limit and has ended up weighing in at the mid 170s. Back in 2011 he won the WBC middleweight championship and went on to successfully defend it 4 times until meeting Sergio Martinez, who completely outclassed him for the majority of a 12-round fight. Martinez's speed, movement and power was just far too much for Chavez Jr. to deal with. Despite this, in the final round, Chavez Jr. landed the big shot that he had been praying for the entire fight that he would land. Unfortunately, he was unable to close the show, but Martinez was all over the place. Since then, Chavez Jr. has somewhat had a derailed career. He's moved up in weight, and as I mentioned, hasn't really performed to any real excellence, and has somewhat let himself down by being unable to make the weight on multiple occasions. In the 5 fights he's had since moving up, he has been defeated once again, and this came in the hands of Fonfara, who managed to stop him in 9 rounds. And despite being known for being heavy-handed, in the other 4 victories since the Sergio Martinez defeat, they've all gone the distance, which is not good news for Chavez Jr. fans, considering the level of opposition was not particularly high. So what do we know about Chavez Jr.? We know that he's got a great chin. He has been stopped against Fonfara, but I'm sure that fans of Chavez Jr. will tell us that there are many reasons why, and it could be the case that he was not living the life. We know that he's failed to make weight many times, and he just was not in the shape that he needed to be in to fight top level 12-round boxing. Now, the positives for Chavez Jr. are that he has some serious power, and he can be a really aggressive fighter when he needs to be, and when the opponent allows him to be this aggressive machine. But like a lot of boxers, he does come unstuck against people with good movement and more highly technical skills. Having said that, he was victorious against Andy Lee, who gave him a lot of problems before Chavez Jr. was able to stop him. So my thoughts on the fight as a whole, there are a number of talking points here. Firstly, there's going to be the size difference between the 2 guys. Immediately, there's going to be quite a major difference in height and reach, and this goes in favour of Chavez Jr. Furthermore, despite the fact that there is a catch weight limit of 164.5 pounds, I would expect Chavez Jr. to come in considerably larger than Canelo. Why I say this, I would expect Chavez to be cutting a lot more weight because he's naturally the much bigger guy. And additionally, on the other side of the scales, I would say that Canelo would not be cutting that much weight. I'm sure he will be cutting some weight, but if he's been fighting at the 155-pound limit, it could be the case that he'll come into this fight more around the level that he kind of holds on a day-to-day basis. And it'll be interesting to see how this impacts both fighters, whether it is a genuine positive for Chavez Jr. Furthermore, it'll be interesting to see whether Canelo risks it and comes in lighter. And we've seen that in the past where we've had these catch weight limits, or we've seen guys go up in weight and then they don't really hit the limit. They like to keep as light as possible to have the kind of speed advantage. So sticking with the weight theme, it is going to be interesting to see how Canelo fights because it's the first time he'll be competing above the 155 limit. As we've said, he has fought for 160-pound belts, but he has not been a middleweight fighter at that time. He opted not to fight Triple G at 160. He's now going for this fight against Chavez Jr. at 164.5 pounds. And a lot of people are not happy about that. I think people thought the reason he didn't take the Triple G fight was that he did not want to move up in weight. And now he's taking this fight at a slightly heavier weight. Now, my thoughts on the matter are that I think that Canelo may be testing the water at the bigger weights, and he sees Chavez Jr. as less of a risk. So instead of moving up to middleweight and fighting a genuine top-level middleweight champion, he's moving up and he's fighting Chavez, who has a somewhat mixed record in recent years and no real top-level victories in that time frame. So in the ring, I believe that Canelo is only likely to lose to a skilled operator who has great movement. We saw in the, not Canelo's last fight, but the previous one against Amir Khan. Now, Amir Khan showed good movement and speed and was able to win some of the opening rounds. And to some extent did frustrate Canelo in those rounds, because Canelo had to keep settling himself, repositioning him where he was, and resetting his feet to try and land shots. And you could see that there was genuine frustration on his face at having to do that. However, he was able to completely switch Amir Khan's lights out with a phenomenal stoppage. Now, that being said, I have a feeling that despite all the negativity to Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in the recent years, his lack of commitment, his lack of focus, his lack of passion, other things that he's done out the ring, the fact that he's built a career off of his name, I believe that he's going to come wanting to win. I don't think he's going to go there just to be bowled over. I think he's genuinely going to come to win. And I've seen a lot of things about him being in the shape of his life, and that he's definitely going to make weight. And with this being an all-Mexican clash, there's no excuses. He will come to win, and I think he will give it his all. And whether his all is enough, we will see on the day. However, my prediction for this fight is that I believe that it's going to go the full 12 rounds, with Saul Canelo Alvarez winning it by unanimous decision. I hope you've enjoyed this preview video between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And if you would like to check out any more of my videos, please hop along to my channel. I release videos on an infrequent basis, but pretty much every single week. I cover many of the big fights and all of the heavyweight fights of any note. And you may be interested to check out my heavyweight rankings that I released in January 2017. As I said earlier, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode of With Just 15 Defeats with myself, Teekosey. If you've got any questions on the fight or my assessment, I would be pleased to hear from you in the comment section below. Remember, if you're new to this channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you for your continued support. It really means a lot for me, and it really makes me push on every single week to do what I really enjoy doing. So I really hope that this turns out to be an exciting fight between Chavez Jr. and Canelo. And I'll see you on the next show.